back to the Coaches Show, live from Pints and Courts Pub and Grill here on Norton Street in Muskegon. My name is Matt Shapkus, joined by the head football coach of the Muskegon Catholic Central Crusaders, Steve Zerwan. And on the plate, coming up on Friday, the Traverse City St. Francis Gladiators, coming in with a record of 5-3, coach. But I did a little research. The three teams they've lost to are combined 22-2. So the 5-3 record is not necessarily a good indicator of how good this team is.
No, we know what kind of program that, when we play Traverse City St. Francis, exactly the kind of kids we're playing. And yeah, they lost to Nouvelle, who's I believe they're 7-1 right now, and kind of one of the favorites in Division 7. They also had a loss, I think, was Boyne City.
Boyne City
was a loss, and then they lost to New Lothrop, who's undefeated, playing in Division 8 still. So, no, they've played some really quality teams, and I think they, I don't know, I've kind of done the math, and I think they'll get in regardless if they win or lose. But I'm sure they're telling their kids that they need this for a victory, to get in the playoffs. So they're going to come down and give us the best shot for sure to make sure they get to that 6 wins to get in the playoffs.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a team that more traditionally sticks to the ground game, don't they?
No, they really like to stick to the ground game. There's not a lot of tricks involved in what they do. They kind of line up in some real basic formations and kind of come at you. And they have some extremely big kids. And I'm talking they have size up front. Their backs are big. I don't know if they're the fastest team that we have played all year, but they're definitely going to be, I think, in every respect, definitely the biggest team we've seen this year so far, in terms of just the size of their kids. We saw their kids at a passing camp this summer, and we couldn't believe that those were the skill position kids. Some of those kids that they had out catching balls and running the ball would be linemen in our program. So they definitely have some size this year.
And they always have a bowler. They have one left.
Well, they have one left, and he's a senior now. I know he didn't play the last couple games, but he's apparently going to be back for this game. And, it kind of came full circle because his oldest brother, Max, who plays at Michigan State now, I was his middle school coach when he was a 7th grader.
Okay.
And since then, the family had moved up north, and this is the last one coming through, and get a chance to play him over at Catholic Central.
So I guess talk about the tradition here. Did you play St. Francis when you were a player?
Yeah, the first time the schools met, I believe, was in 1991. And it was in a state semifinal game that was up at Cadillac. And I actually was, kind of in a situation where I was a freshman that got called up for the playoffs. And so I didn't get on the field for that game, but I was, I guess I was suited up for that game. And I know their coach, Greg Vaughn, he was, I think he was a defensive end on that team.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. And then I guess the first regular season game when they came down in 1993, I was a junior quarterback on that team, and we beat them 7-0. And then my senior year, we went up there to Thurby, and we beat them 35-7. And then we've played them off and on, for about the last 20 years or so. Their head coach, who really put their program in place, Larry Sellers, was a Muskegon Catholic graduate, and then his son went on to coach there. So, yeah, I guess you could say there's quite a bit of history between the two schools, and several. I mean, there's been a few times that we've met in the state semifinals. For when it was double C or C, and then there was a Division 7 game I remember. I think my second year back at coaching at Catholic, they beat us in the semis to go on and win a state title. So yeah, definitely a lot of history between these schools, and you're always going to get a real good quality game.
Now, can you use this as a little bit, even though we have no idea who you'll play in Week 10, just a little bit of a playoff primer for the guys, saying, hey, this is a good team that probably should be in the playoffs, whether they are or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's just things you talk to the kids about. Your kids have accomplished a goal qualifying for the playoffs, but you're telling them that this is how you measure yourself. You don't necessarily measure yourself against, no offense to some other people who put in the schedule, but that's not how you measure how good a team you are. You really measure yourself in these type of games. And so we'll get a chance, I really believe this, to see what we're made of and exactly, kind of how good we are. We thought we were getting that against Fruitport, and we had a couple things go right in that game. But, another chance for us to really test ourselves against a quality opponent.
Okay, now with them running so much, I guess let's talk defense first. Mm-hmm. Are you going to try and slow them down and make them put it up in the air, or how do you approach that?
It's the same game plan every week. You try to take away what the team does well and then make them do something they don't want to do. So you try to take away their run, and there's not, when they line up in a T formation with 3 backs, there's not a lot you can do. You've got to put your 11 guys in the box, and it's sometimes who's the better better at executing what they want to do is going to win. So sometimes it just comes down to that hand-to-hand combat that takes place in the trenches to see who's going to be successful. So, defensively, you just line up and they want to run the ball, and we need to stop the run. So it's again, there's not a lot of deception on either part. We just gotta give them our best shot in doing that.
Now you've seen the team a couple times. I know you saw them once in person. Offensively, which is more what you're in tune with, I guess.
Correct.
What ways were other teams succeeding against them, and what ways do you think the Crusaders can be successful against them?
Well, I think kind of one of the things they do have a lot of size. I do think, and I think we've seen it in every team we've played this year, we do have a pretty fast team. As far as, number one, getting to the ball on defense, but then also our skill people on offense. So, some teams have had success spreading them out and doing some things like that. I just think we have to, as cliched as it sounds, keep doing what we're doing and execute the plays that we run. And I think, again, I think our speed, if you kind of look on paper, and I think they'd admit as much, is the kind of the one advantage we have.
Okay.
So we've got to be able to get to the edge a little bit at times and then capitalize when we do.
All right. Looking ahead, which I know you're not doing, but I am.
Okay.
Taking a look toward the playoffs. I was looking at it. There's actually a website that projects all the MHSAA playoffs.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a tough way to approach it for you guys. It's not like you're Mendon where you're going to be down in the South Regional and you're probably going to have the same three teams you've had every year. You guys are right on the border. Actually, right now, the guy that's projecting it has us going north instead of south this year.
Yeah, we've never gone north in Division 8. We've gone north in Division 7 before. But kind of where we're located geographically, we're kind of an outlier, I guess you would say, in terms of there's not a lot of schools our size that are going to qualify the playoffs around us. So, depending on how the state decides to draw the brackets, they could send us to a more northern bracket. If you remember last year, they sent us due east, where we went over and played, Vesterberg, which is on 46, and then we ended up playing Follower, which is near Lansing.
Yep.
So we went straight across, and there, we could actually go down south and be in a bracket, it looks like, with Climax Scots and Mendon, and some of those teams down there. So we don't know. I mean, I guess I have an idea in my head of about 6 teams that we could probably play week 1.
Okay.
But I guess 6 teams is that's not narrowing it down very much. So we really won't know. I think I'll have a little bit of an idea on Saturday. Once everything comes in, you start looking at it, or late Saturday when some of the I guess when all the playoff stuff settled. But again, the state could kind of send you anywhere when they start drawing the brackets up in the districts, and you just really got to wait till 7 o'clock Sunday night to figure out who you play and what that's going to be.
Now, I don't know exactly how the state does it. I think you have a little better idea. Are there certain times when there might be a smaller or a bigger Division 8 team that actually ends up in Division 7 because of geography? Do they ever do anything like that, or do they actually just draw a line and say this is where it is and we got to figure it out from there?
Are you talking about terms of divisions? Or
yes.
Divisions are strictly what the state does is they qualify 256. So teams that qualify automatically with 6 wins get in.
Okay.
And let's say that number is 240. That means there would be 16 what they call at-large teams. So that means they look to all the teams with 5 and 4 records, and then they go by a point system that's devised, which kind of takes into account the number of wins you have, who you've played, their strength of schedule. It's a somewhat complicated formula, but you go by that, and then they take an A, a B, a C, and a D. Then they take a Class A, a C, a B, and a D until they get to the 256. And then once they get to 256, the schools with the enrollments 1 through 32 are Division 1. Okay. And then the next 32 biggest schools are another district. So we'll be in Division 8. We know that.
Right.
So whoever the 32 smallest schools are that qualify for the playoffs will be in our division.
Okay.
So they don't. To answer your question in terms of do they change it? They don't change it. They qualify 256, and then they divide up 8 divisions among that 256.
Okay. Well, that's good stuff to know for nerds like me that like to keep up on the playoffs and everything. Now, again, every week we will bring on a different player here for the Coaches Show, and this week it is your kicker, Griffin Seymour. And he's got a couple family members here today to encourage him. Talk a little bit about Griffin and his role on the team. He's obviously the kicker. He's also gotten out and had a chance to play some defense for you this year. Just talk a little bit about what the young man brings to the team.
Well, I mean, his primary goal is to be the kicker. And he's done a very good job with that this year. He is, I think he's our our fourth leading scorer on the team this year just because of the sheer number of extra points he's kicked. I think he's 42 of 43 in the year. I think he had one that he missed at Grant. But, just there's a certain, relief as a coach to know that you're not going to be chasing points during the game. You score a touchdown, you pretty much know to a large degree you're getting 7 out of it, not 6. And that's, there's just a certain stability factor that I guess you don't know as a coach how much you really appreciate that. And so he's been 2 for 2 on field goals, made a field goal at Muskegon Heights and made one against Orchard View, I believe. And, his primary job is to kick. So he kicks the ball off. And we have Coach Fedrosi, who kind of runs our special teams, asks him to do different things. Sometimes he asks him to kick deep. Sometimes he asks him to kick, a pooch punt. We practice on sides all the time. We haven't run one yet. But, it's just a lot of things he's asked to do, different type of kicks he's even asked to make on kickoff. So that's his primary role. And Griffin is, I think a lot of guys will tell you, he's as athletic as they come, on our team. He's a small guy.
Right.
And he's a lot of athletic ability packed into that small body. And I just, worry the fact because he is so automatic, I don't ever want to get him hurt. So, there was times assistants go, why don't you put Griff in the backfield? I'm not having him turn an ankle when I know I'm going to need him. So there's times I'm overly protective of him, but I guess it's for a reason because I think the job that he does and how well he does it is to me is very important to the team.
Now, have you ever had a chance to look historically at kickers in the past for MCC to see how, 42 of 43 on extra points, that's got to be right up there.
I wouldn't even know. I'd have to go back and ask Coach Holmes where these stats are kept or if they're kept. I don't know. We've had, and I think that's one of the things with at a small school, you don't always have a kicker every year.
Right.
And some year you put a pointed shoe on and he's a toe puncher. And, you got a guy out there changing shoes, right after an extra point's made. And you hope to make it that way. And some years you get a guy and he's good, but he's inconsistent. Griffin brings a certain consistency that is, it's so just calming as a coach to make sure that, you kind of know you're going to get that point tacked on at the end of the touchdown.
All right, so we'll have Griffin Seymour coming up in 3 minutes. Coach Zerwan, best of luck against St. Francis this weekend.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in 3 minutes with more of the Coaches Show here on Country 93.1.